Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Rob, here in the lair of OmnusI once more, after a full night of gaming in my seat of power, and we are finished on this October 5th, 2017, after a session of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons in the Princes of the Apocalypse setting. We were unfortunately down the services of the player of Glim, the Dwarven Cleric of Clangeddon, Silverbeard, and as per my usual policy, when a player goes down, their character is unavailable to the group. I don't favor allowing another player to play out the character, and frankly, I'm too busy as a dungeon master, so that player has one of many avenues of dropping off the face of the earth. In this particular time, he was just lampshaded. He wasn't here, so his character didn't come up. Not that they didn't want him, because there were some fun combats that took place. The party was closing up their negotiation with the Druids, deciding to spend an extra day kind of minding the Druids back as they were unwinding the rite that they had been working on, that they had been deceived into contributing through with the cult of the Eternal Flame. So they spent a day gathering themselves together. They were approached by one of the druids to take his charge off of his hands and maybe do something with him. Their charge is the latest GM NPC, the Goblin Wizard Glob Knobscrape. Glob is an amnesiac who woke up at the feet of a dead wizard and his spellbook by his side, and Glob basically took the robes the wizard was in. He cut the sleeves so that he could wear it and cut the body off it around the waist. Glob is small for a goblin, only about 2.5 feet tall, rather puny and spindly. But by leafing through this wizard's notes in his spellbook, he gathered how to cast magic. So he is a 3rd level wizard. And with Glob, I use my special voice. And Glob is a very nice goblin wizard who is very pleased to meet you and assures you that he is not an evil goblin at all. Using voice is one of my fondest tools that I employ to enrich my players' game, so giving Glob his own voice is useful as long as it doesn't get to be grating or annoying. If I wanted to go full Stitch, I could do that. That becomes harder to understand. Well, just a little touch here and there helps Glob to stand out without being annoying. Or, of course, you could go full Gollum, but, balance and discipline is more useful for this kind of a character. I made Glob, and I used the race template out of Volo's Guide to Monsters, which I've picked up, and I think it's a very good book. And as a result, Glob is a full-on goblin. He has a few little racial abilities, but, he'll never be a huge combat monster. He fights by swinging the spellbook as a weapon. Although if they can find him a weapon he can use his dexterity for. He's amazing. He's got an 18 dexterity. He's very, very nimble. Quite intelligent. The rest, not so much. But he's not there to overshadow the party, so he doesn't need huge stats. For the most part, Terran was approached to take charge of Glob, and Terran was like, no, fine. I rate everybody based on how they do and what they do to me, not what they are. So this real sales pitch came with everyone else, and for the most part, Oric at first was a little gruff, not pleased to be toting around a goblin after they waded through goblin blood in the Stoneholm adventure. But the little guy kind of grew on them. He has his own ways. He went around telling everybody what he liked about them. about how Otto is so pretty, and he's got beautiful voice. And Terran is big and strong, and is so well armored, and he is brave, and he will stand between me and the enemies, like a big good meat shield. And Goth is kind of like a wizard, but he's always a little bit broken. He doesn't do magic with spell books. He just kind of makes it up as he goes along. Maybe I can teach him a few things. And Oric has such pretty long hair. If we ever get into very bad cold, he'll probably be okay. And that was his compliment for Oric, and Oric didn't get mad or threaten to kill him or anything, so he's got most of the job done. Now, of course, when Glim comes back, who is a dwarf of the dwarves, that'll be the real sales pitch. So after spending this time, they set out finally from the Druids. And took the wagons of... After they negotiated, first they were pitched by Terran. He wanted to go, when he found out that the cultists that survived were all fleeing to the west and south, he wanted to go northwest, get to the river, try to head them off, and work to finish them off. That got shushed by the others because they have 2 wagons full of food and other foodstuffs and some supplies that they took from the cultists, and they want to bring that back up to the town of Hamlet to, reinvigorate the town a little bit more. Bring them some foods and supplies because they have no crops, because the weather is so horrible because of what these cultists are doing. So they get everything together, and Terran is a natural teamster. He's trained as a soldier background, so he gets them in working order, tells other people how to do the job, and they set off. And at first, everything's going just fine until, I rolled up for an encounter and, decided they should have something to do. So, thinking on my feet, I let them find a ruined merchant's caravan. There were 3 wagons in the caravan, and there were a couple of bodies around. So as they discovered this, they approached to investigate, and they found out that most of the bodies that had died, there weren't enough for the whole caravan. There were many bodies that were missing, but most of the bodies that died were either smashed from a brutal blow, or they were bitten nearly in half from a huge set of teeth. And for some reason, I gave a list of creatures because I believe it was Terran rolled really well for his survival to determine what could have done that, or nature, I should say, nature skill. And he thought it was a natural huge predator like a boule or maybe a dragon or something of that nature. So and I even threw out a distraction boule. I have a boule miniature. He's very nice. I haven't gotten to use him yet, so I brought him out. I put him out so that the guys could see what a boule looks like, and they were immediately okay. I think we can. I could see them mentally thinking, okay, I think we can take on a boule. If it's a bunch of boules, well, we'll see, but okay. Then they went and explored the wagons, and they explored the middle wagon, which was the most intact and looked like it was fully loaded with its supplies. And there was a body hanging out of the section in the front where the drover would be, and the body was just kind of hanging off to one side. And so he went up to investigate and found out he was hanging up that way because there was this purple rope that was wound up around his ankle and was propping him up. He thought he would go over and cut that purple rope. Well, it turns out that the carriage was actually a large mimic, as the role played by my dice bag. And it was about the size, too. Just instead of a carriage, mimic. Nom, 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 nom. So, all of a sudden, Terran was attacked by the giant pseudopod, which served as his tongue. And he got hit, but he wasn't grappled by the beast. And he started to fight. And just the problem that the group had was their alpha strike was kind of diffused because Geth was left behind to stay with the wagons and make sure the horses didn't panic and dash off in case of mischief. And Oric, who has a bow, decided he would cut the distance. He'd be 100 yards off, able to cover them with his bow, but still far enough out that if something bad happened, he wasn't going to get caught in the middle of it. In the meantime, Glob and Otto and Terran had moved up to investigate the wagon. So when this thing attacked, Otto moved up to give heroism to Terran as their front line, and Terran whacked the thing with one of his Battlemaster special attacks that caused him to be afraid of him for a bit. And Glob cast a Flaming Sphere next to him, one of his second level spells, and it did some damage over time and cooked the Mimic. So all told, they were starting to do some significant damage before the Mimic decided it was going to attack Otto. Since it was scared of I apologize, a little late tonight. So it attacked Otto. Otto wasn't wearing much for armor, so it grabbed him and started reeling him in for a bite. So the group started rattling off their effects and powers and everything, and doing consistent and considerable damage to the Mimic. Otto used his Vicious Mockery to give the thing disadvantage, so it actually did not chomp him at first attempt. The others, but the pole with his halberd, Terran can do some pretty impressive damage. If he ever loses that halberd, he loses probably about 60% of his offense. But he was striking some deadly blows, and poor Geth, of course, was too far out. 200 yards is not going to be close enough to be able to dish out spells when your spells have a range of 120 feet. So, going through that meat grinder, Geth got hit, but he healed himself. He got free, and then he got hit again. And this time I ruled that the thing had taken so much damage that he could make a dexterity saving throw to break out of the grapple, which he did, and just left his armor behind in the thing's tongue. So, again, I apologize, late at night. Geth slips out, and they finish off the Mimic. And so they loot the wagons after the monster has been defeated. They didn't bury the bodies or anything. They just kind of left everything. But they took one of the wagons was bigger and wider than the one that they had. So they took the food and stuff that was on that one, added the stuff that's on their other one of the wagons that had foodstuffs, put it on top of this wagon, and hauled a bigger load. For the most part, they found utility stuff, not anything too earth-shattering. So they continued on. And it got dark. They camped. There was an encounter in the second shift, which was Terran's shift. The camp was attacked by a quickling who used invisibility to try to steal unattended items. First, he tried stealing some short swords off of Oric, because he had some nice short swords, and it's something that a quickling would use in combat. However, Terran saw the theft, even though if he didn't see the quickling himself, and moved to intercept. The quickling kind of bolted. He didn't want to be in an encounter. He just wanted to take what he could. And then he went and he saw the book of Glob's and decided he was going to try to take it, despite the fact that Glob was sleeping with his head on top of the book. And as he was dragging it off, Glob kept following him in his sleep, trying to keep up with his beloved book. So finally, folks wake up. They make every effort they can to get the invisible intruder. They managed to hit him for a little damage, and he took off. So they were only down a single non-magical short sword. They weren't too upset by that. Never found out what exactly had attacked them, just that, something happened. So then finally, The next day, a massive storm comes rolling in. Iron gray skies. The rain is heavy. It is also faintly greasy and just coming down in sheets that batter everybody who's not under cover. So they keep progressing because they're adventurers, darn it, and they're tough. They do arrange things on their wagons so that they can get under shelter from time to time to take a break from getting pelted by the rain, which evaporates very quickly and is sucked up by the ground, so at least they aren't going through a muddy morass. Eventually, they see a golden glow ahead of them, and when they go to it, they find out that the rain gets lessened until they actually get within range of it. They find an immaculate white horse, all equipped for battle. There's a white tent with a golden eagle on top, which is shedding the golden light. And absolutely no rain. The rain stops in a circular radius around the tent. So they introduce themselves, and they meet the wandering paladin of Hyronius, Byron Mathelion, who is one of the tools Hyronius uses to whack evil. Not a very subtle man, but no shortage of bravery, power, and skill. So as a paladin, he wanders around, he beats evil up. So the group was like, oh, thank you for letting us stay with you. He's like, that's not a problem, I'm just warning you. I tend to draw evil, and evil comes to challenge me, and I kill it. So if you rest here, you'll be safe from the crazed weather, but monsters and things might come up. They're like, oh, no worries, we need experience. We're happy for monsters. Well, it just so happened that I got a pack of the Storm Giant's Fury, or something like that, adventure pack, and I got rather lucky with the miniatures. I got a Fire Giant. He is a rather impressive figure. I like him a lot. And I thought, you know what? In an actual set of the adventure, it wouldn't make much sense to throw him at them because he's too powerful at the moment. But as far as how many times am I going to have an opportunity to use him in the near future? So I decided with the Paladin there that I kind of gave them a safety net. I could throw him at them and let somebody else take some of the beating. And, they could participate in a fight, but it wouldn't get them full experience because the Paladin was going to do most of the work for this fight. They could just get to, take on something cool. They just gotten finished taking care of something the size of a small cottage in that Mimic. So, just figured I'd let them play with a new figure. And, sure enough, the Paladin goes out and charges it and does some damage. But then the party uses their Alpha Strike ability. And Terran moves up, and he immediately lays down an action surge, so he gets an extra attack in. And he loaded each of his attacks with a Battlemaster's tactic to distract the giant, so that somebody else could get an attack with advantage, which happened to be Auric, who gets attacks with advantage if anybody else is attacking the same foe anyhow, but this just sealed the deal. And so Terran did just a sickening amount of damage with his initial attack, far beyond what the Paladin was able to do with a swing with his Holy Avenger. Then Otto followed up with a good 28-point strike with his bow, with sneak attack. So the giant was already badly injured, within single-digit hit points. So Otto tried to kill it using his vicious mockery, because we had a long-standing tradition when we had the NPC. Kidron was a bard who was with the very first group, and he did okay, but he had a lot of situations where he played the clean-up batter, where the monster was badly injured, single-digit hit points. He would use vicious mockery. If they blew their saving throw, he might kill them, giving them a tragic heart attack in the middle of combat. Since it's psychic damage, it's not painfully obvious. Just by saying a bad word, the guy would get so angry that he would just stroke out. So Otto tries this. Doesn't work. The thing makes a saving throw. So a round of combats go on. Geth, they're like, no, Geth, use your magic missiles. He's at single-digit hit points. A magic missile will kill him. You don't have to roll anything. He's like, no. I'm going to do like Otto did. I'm going to give him a chance, and I'm going to use a lesser effect. So he used his Chill Touch, which did 2 out of the 3 giants' hit points. Just left it with 1 hit point left. Reeling and rocking, and the giant decided he was going to take somebody down, and while this paladin looked impressive and everything, he could tell that he had a much better chance of taking the guy who did almost a third of his hit points in a flurry of strokes away, so he attacked Terran, who was practically naked. He had been sleeping. This attack came while they were all resting. So he took a swipe with his greatsword and did like 30-some points damage, which he's winced at, but he's like, okay. And then the second strike hit and dropped him, knocked him out, put him at death's door, knocking loudly. The paladin's like, you do not get to strike down another follower of Hieronymus while I'm here. And he turned and he laid on of hands, and cherubs sang, and the skies parted, and all of a sudden, Terran is up, back at full, ready to fight. And Auric shoots, misses. Tragic. He could have gotten the cheeky kill. So Glob can't help. All he did was make Terran's weapon magical using his magic sword ability. And so Otto got another crack at it. And this time I did not make my saving throw. And the giant died from a massive heart attack from being insulted by a bard. Another villain in a long line of villains. The giant died, and there was much rejoicing. The paladin went back without looting the body, but the rest of the group wasn't that way. And they found some little knickknacks, bear skins, and they found a few odds and ends. That is where we finished the night. It was a good night with a couple of solid combats. The group had fun. They're not in a dungeon, so they still have some freedom to move about and everything. But they are getting close to Hamlet, getting out of the Badlands and moving across the more pastoral setting before they get to the town of Hamlet and get to train and do all their good stuff, because most of them are ready for 5th level. So, but that was my State of the Dungeon address, and I hope you've enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun tonight, and I think we're going to see some exciting stuff. Next time we play, well, let's see what Glim says about Glob. That'll be an interesting dynamic. But next week, Werewolf the Apocalypse. So, looking forward to seeing you there. I'm Rob, Lair of OmnusI, once more, wishing you many profitable adventures. Thank you.